career spanning 5 decades, David Bowie is one of the most successful recording artists of his generation. Effortlessly evolving with the times, he has managed to remain both relevant and influential, continually attracting new audiences whilst sustaining the devotion of his earlier fan base. Emerging as a fully fledged star in the 1970s, Bowie achieved global success as an innovator and artist, rising above his contemporaries to become the icon of a generation.
Having had the phenomenon of the Beatles and all the groups that came up in their wake and alongside them, when they split up, everybody thought it would be another group that would take over. That would be the world-dominating force in music. It would be another group. So everyone was looking for who's going to be the next Beatles, who's going to be the next Beatles. And it struck me really heavily one day, it's not a group, it's David Bowie.
Yet his road to success was far from steady. Throughout the 1960s, Bowie suffered many setbacks while searching for an authentic voice that would secure him an audience.
It just took a little bit longer for this country and the world to catch on to what David was doing. They caught on to the Kinks and all the other bands quicker, but David became much bigger than all of them.
This is the story of Bowie's ascension, from Bromley schoolboy to international superstar, from Davy Jones to Ziggy Stardust. David Robert Jones, the boy who would become Bowie, was born in Brixton, London in 1947. By 1953, the Jones family had moved to Bromley, and David was enrolled at the local junior school, Burnt Ash.
I first met David Bowie at Burnt Ash School. He was a year below me. I remember him being very small, very short little chap, always quite neat, tidy, clean, and well-behaved. He didn't stand out in any way.
Not a particularly gifted student, David failed his exams. However, through his mother's persistence, he was accepted into Bromley Technical School in 1958.
After Burnt Ash, he followed me to, being a year younger, followed me to Bromley Technical School, which was pretty much a brand new school when I joined. And when he came along the next year, he fitted in. And yeah, I remember him, again, it didn't stand out in any way.
The only thing that stood out from the crowd was he was so dapper and so well dressed. I mean, when we was at school, I mean, we was obviously all in the same school uniform, but I mean, he always seemed to have, the best trousers and, always looked smart and nice shirt and tie. And if you saw him out, I mean, he was always dressed in a suit, etc.
We were both from the north side of Bromley, sort of the side nearer London. It was a nice, pleasant area, very much suburbia. It was a friendly, more relaxed, less frenetic time than it is now. A good time to just grow up in, really. David, I would say, a very pleasant, very personable guy. Would always be easy to talk to and liked to talk to people. He would always expound his knowledge about music. And again, like all of us in those days, we were all besotted with all things American. And David very much liked American things to the extent that he decided, or he listened, I believe, to the American Forces radio. And he then thought, what a good idea. We don't have baseball. He wasn't much of a footballer. I don't think he liked games generally. But he got this idea, just maybe we could play baseball. So he wrote or contacted a baseball team in America. And they thought, great, hey, this English guy wants. So they sent him bats, balls, hats, the gloves. And suddenly he appeared on the bus with all this stuff. And he said, started playing baseball with his schoolmates outside after school. And that lasted for a bit. And then, of course, he got fed up with it and went off it. But he was always trying new ideas.
He was always the all-American boy, and he was always seemed to be up for everything. He didn't get into as much mischief as the rest of us used to get into. Perhaps mischief is too light-hearted a word, but the rest of us used to sort of play about a lot, but he never seemed to. But I remember he had us all playing baseball once, or trying to get us all to play baseball, And another time he wrote off to the American embassy for the rules of American football, and they sent him down all the armoured jacket and shoulder pads, etc. And we had somebody come down from the Evening News that was taking photographs of us with all this gear.
It was really when he got to the art stream, when he got to the third year, and we split up then. You either did languages or art or engineering more. But he went into art, not surprisingly. And it was then he just started to get into his music and started to really get into art generally.
Under the tutelage of charismatic arts teacher Owen Frampton, and with strong influences at home, Bowie's interest in music and the arts developed.
One thing that's really important about Bowie is that he always loved music. He was around music from a very early age, and his father was a press officer for Bernardo's, and sort of press officers were quite a new thing at that point. Now sort of every second or third person seems to be one, but then it was quite a new thing. So he'd been used to sort of growing up and seeing sort of stars and celebrities go to children's homes with his father and things like that. And also his brother brought home a lot of records that Bowie got into. So already he'd absorbed an awful lot of influences. And it was almost entirely natural that what he would then want to do is to get into playing music.
I remember him talking very much, as a lot of us did at the time. We were all very keen on Buddy Holly, and it was quite the sort of the thing to be. He was the person that you were quite cool in a way to like him. He liked Little Richard. He was quite an icon at the time of the early rock stars. And he talked endlessly about, on the bus back from Keston, where we were at school, back into the centre of Bromley, for ages just about music. Latterly, of course, he then started performing and would talk about functions, gigs that he did.
In 1962, David joined his first band, the Kon-Rads, a Shadows-inspired outfit who toured local youth clubs.
I remember specifically on one occasion he was quite delighted that he appeared with Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, who were quite a big name at the time, although he only had perhaps 2 or 3 hits. And David showed me a scrap of paper on it that he'd written, "Good working tonight, boys," and that was from Johnny Kidd, and that was, wow, Johnny Kidd, this was really something. And David took that to be, well, someone that's been in the profession rates me, and that was obviously a spur to him that kept him going.
It was during 1962 that David suffered an injury during a fight with fellow pupil George Underwood that would affect his appearance forever.
The way I remember it was George Underwood. I think David was after his girlfriend or something, and George was moaning about it. And the week before, me and some of the lads who I'd been out with, a guy called Malcolm had just walked up to somebody, tapped him on the shoulder, and he was much bigger than him. As he turned round, he'd whacked him one. So I said to George, I said, go up, tap him on the shoulder. As he turns around, whack him one. And I understood that's what had happened, but